I want to talk about the movie They Cloned Tyrone. If you haven't watched this movie, please do so. I will be giving out some spoilers for those who have not watched it. The movie was great. It was more than what I expected. I thought the movie would be kind of like, I don't know what I expected, but I didn't think it would be like this. It was so in your face and real, you know, just super relatable. I live in a community where those main three characters exist in my everyday life since a kid. You have your pimp, you have your dope dealer, you have your prostitute. Everybody know a yo-yo, everybody know a slick, and everybody in my community know a Fontaine. That was so relatable, and even the other supporting cast members, excuse me, in this movie was relatable. And I think what stood out to me most and what I appreciate most about this movie is the realness and what we all innately think about being black and living in a hood and feeling almost as if we are in this endless cycle of not being able to get out of of a constant routine of the same negative environment or vibe. And it's not by mistake that these people in this community, in this movie, was going through what they were going through. And when I say by design, there was a nefarious act or the powers that be or the government was behind keeping them down in a sense. Now, there's a whole lot of different meanings and a whole lot of different ways to look at this movie, but I just want to talk about how I view it. And for a long time, we've always felt like, why are we not able to move forward? And not specifically me, but just in general, our communities. It's like we take two steps forward, then there's two steps back. You have those that get up, they move on, they move outward. They're very successful, and we love that. But you have majority of the community that's still stuck, and they're only used to their environment, and they don't know how to get out and see the world and know that there's something beyond the two or three streets or blocks that they live on, or the neighborhood in their hood, and especially if there's gangs involved. However, in the movie, it shows how the government or an entity or what have you is basically controlling the narrative of each and every one of their lives in that whole community, as far as by way of, the women's hair products and the chemicals that they're using in those hair products are making the women depressed and, keeping them from thinking outside the box and evolving and getting out of that rut. I noticed that that was the attack on women, and then how the music that was controlling them in the movie, and they were also being controlled by the church by taking the communion juice. All of these things. Oh, and the chicken, the food that they were consuming was also making them behave in a certain manner and keeping them down. And in my community, what's on every street corner? Liquor stores, dispensaries, fast food, beauty supplies, and churches. So this movie, again, really hit home for me because we tend to lean on these particular resources in our communities really heavily. This is what we funnel our money into. And I go to church, and I've always thought that churches can be political. That's maybe another video or what have you, but I know that some people go just for the sake of going, and but everybody religious, I don't really want to get into the religious aspect, but moving on to like the beauty supply. We are very in the black community. I tend to be more natural, but I wasn't always. I wore my hair, I wore braids, I still wear braids. And I used a synthetic hair for the braids, but it was a point in time where I was conditioned that I had to wear a weave, or a wig in order to feel beautiful. Um, Years ago, back in junior high school, perms was all the rage. I didn't need a perm, but I wanted one because I wanted straight hair. And in the movie, the women are getting perms, but the perms are mentally bringing them down and bringing down their mood. And then it's just crazy because now you have the commercials that come on right now saying that the perms were actually poisoning women, and you can be subject to ovarian cancer if you at one point in time or regularly used perms. So you have that aspect. It's like this movie is pointing out the things that are actually really happening in our communities and happening to us. And when you look at the music in the movie, there was a scene where the people were in the club, and it was something like, "Oh, you're getting ready to go to sleep now." So the lyrics in the music was making everybody and putting them in a state of sleepy or just real mellow, a mellow mood. Even when one time Slick was in the car and a certain song came on, and he was like, "Every time I listen to this song, I get sleepy." So it shows how music that we listen to determine our we react, and we begin to act out those lyrics in real life. And when I think about, like for example, the drill music that's listened to in certain states, that music, you know, caused certain people to go out and commit certain crimes or behave in a certain fashion based on what the music is talking about. It's no different than listening to music that gets you hype, music that make you feel like you want to be in love. Music has a way of making us feel a certain way, and that's actually like a way of to control people. And it's just by no mistake that the music we listen to caused young men and women to be out here, committing heinous crimes against each other in states like Chicago, here in LA, where I grew up. It's the whole LA gangster rap. When that came on the scene, that kind of made people in my community, and I feel like music instigated that for, things to be going back and forth. Also, another thing in the movie was the food. It's been mentioned before that the food that we eat can alter our mental state. And if you don't eat clean and you're eating things that's bad for you, a lot of sugars, a lot of processed foods, that can affect your mind and your ability to think and your ability to, just to thrive. And in our community, for me, and this is just my experience, I have to drive 2 cities over just to get quality food at the grocery store. If I want real, natural, organic foods, organic milks, organic anything, or just things that are not processed, things that we never taste before, I have to drive all the way to Santa Monica just to get things like that. Or drive, it's ridiculous, but they don't have that in the community for the purpose. And that's another thing in the movie. They were eating a chicken, and the chicken caused them to all be laughing at one point, and they were controlled by the food that they were eating. And then also, um, I touched on the music, I touched on the food and the hair products, and then there was also the church. You have some churches that, you can go and you can get the word, but then you also have churches that will, um, lead or persuade people in the community to vote a certain way, to give their money and their funds every single Sunday. You hear all types of things about the church. There's good and there's bad. But this movie really touched on the things that I see every single day, things that I've been questioning. And I want to speak about how, I don't know how long before Prince actually passed away, but he mentioned one time and he spoke out about how he felt like the chemtrails was causing these young men in Chicago to be killing one another the way that they do. And he's like, it's something in the air. It's something out here that they're doing. And I believe that. I believe if they can control our environment, if they can control our thought processes through our music, control us through food, control us through, you know, the liquor stores on every corner, now the dispensaries on every corner. Why wouldn't they put something in the atmosphere to make people throw you off and cause you to want to do harm or control the masses? And this movie really, really, really honed in on how much we as people are controlled. And the things that go on in my community is not going on in another community where the economic circumstances are different. And it's by way of holding you back. So, again, watch the movie. The movie is great. You'll be able to learn so much from it. If and I'm sure other people who live in communities like mine, and even in communities that's not like mine, can kind of look at it and see from their own perspective how they may be controlled in their environment. Just to wrap it up, the movie Fontaine ends up finding out that he's cloned. Slick was also cloned. Oh, and this is another thing that stood out to me. There was a scene where a man that worked with, the whole program of them, the people underground, that was controlling the narrative and cloning all these different men and women. There was a point where he could control both Fontaine and Slick by saying a certain phrase. And the woman, Yo Yo, she realized she couldn't be controlled. And she asked why. And he told her, you're not important. Your type, your kind of woman, you're like a dime a dozen. I'm just speaking, it's not verbatim, but just kind of paraphrasing what was actually said in the movie. And that spoke volumes to me because she was a black woman. She was a prostitute and she was unimportant. At that moment, he told her that she was unimportant. Nobody cares about you. You and women like you are a dime a dozen. And that just stands out to me also because black women are considered or often not protected. And the community, you go missing, black women go missing all the time, and it's no big deal. No one cares, if you're missing. But young black men, they tend to be more valuable in society because, and this is even going back to before time, and during slavery, the men were more stronger. Those are the men that they kept around if they were really athletic. And you see that today. They want the strongest, most athletic men and young boys, excuse me, for sports. And women were kind of like, oh, okay, we'll use the women if, to go on a fight, to go out and rally, to go out and protest. But other than that, we're not really, I see us not being worth as much in other people's eyes, even though we are awesome, we are excellent, we are very educated, we are resourceful, we are a million things, but the world doesn't see it that way. But anyway, just to end this video, please go watch the movie. You're going to love the end. You're going to love hearing Erykah Badu remake Called Tyrone, but make it about the mention about cloning Tyrone. And it seems like it might be a part two or a sequel to the movie. I'm not sure, but I would really like for it to be, just so that we could get more of this these writers' perspective and whoever created this movie into and get more in depth into this cloning situation and into how these neighborhoods are controlled. But anyway, thanks for listening. If you get a chance, please like this video, please share, and please subscribe. Thank you.